All right, we're on. How are you today?
Good, how are you?
Good. It's funny, you go into immediate podcast cute face.
I don't know what that
As
means.
soon as we go on, you just kind of go, hi.
Okay. What should I do instead?
Okay, so we are going to talk about the unfiltered life of having 6 children, because we have 6 kids now.
We do.
And we're going to give the behind the scenes truth only told here. I don't know. So anyway, but we do want to talk about 6 kids. We have 6 kids now, and half a dozen. They don't come really cheaper by the half a dozen. Maybe we'll have to
Is
try.
there really a break after
Have to
a
try.
dozen?
That's what the book said,
Yeah.
and the movie, part 1 and 2 with Steve Martin. But maybe it lies. I don't know. Maybe they're not cheaper by the dozen. So, all right. So let's talk a little bit about having a lot of kids. If you have 2, if you have 4, if you have 12, whatever, life has gotten a lot busier. So let me ask you a few questions as wife and mother. What was it like going from no kids to 1 kid? And we'll go from there.
Okay. I will honestly say that 0 to 1 was the hardest transition.
Yes.
Even to date, like 5 to 6. Yeah, no. 0 to 1 was the hardest. And I think because once you have that first one, like your life completely changes.
Right.
Which I guess makes sense. But like we were 25 when we had our first.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'd already like been through college, had some time out of college, and you like your life is your own, your schedule is your own. So like for the first time being an adult, but there was all this freedom. Yeah. So then like to go to have like your sleep interrupted and be on this schedule of this little person, and kind of what you can do and can't do is dictated by that, especially because our first one was really cranky as a baby. But that was like, whoa, what is this? You're like keeping somebody alive 24 hours a day, the responsibility of it, and just the demand of it was hard to get into the rhythm of. But then once you are in that, I feel like it's easier after that.
Yeah.
You know what to expect too. Like I think there's a lot of, I don't know if it was like this for you with our first, but everything was a little bit more, what do you do? Okay, he's crying. Like everything was on edge, and just you don't have this confidence of, oh, I know what's wrong, or that comes later.
That does come a lot later.
Yeah.
And I totally agree. I do think like going from 0, living a quarter of a century of life, having no children and no, I'd hate to say real responsibilities, but I mean, it is like when you don't have kids, you really don't have, there's a certain understanding of responsibility you just get once you have your first kid. And once he's here, it's like, whoa, like, yes, we were responsible for one another or whatever, or if you have a pet or whatever, but it's
work,
or work.
School,
yes, you're responsible for yourself.
Yeah.
And there's that, of course, there's that element, but to be responsible for another individual life, and a helpless life at that, that changes everything. It changes your entire life. And then, it has changed our life 6 times over. Yeah. And I think, with each one is like not as hard from 0 to 1. Yes. Somehow having 6 is easier than, thinking about what it was like to go from 0 to 1, as opposed to 5 to 6 or 4 to 5 or whatever. Yeah. Yeah, totally. But I do think that, how do you think family dynamics changes though? Going from, yes, you have a baby, so that changes the dynamics of our married relationship quite a bit. But then when you start adding kids to the mix, because some people stop after 1 or 2, or they think 3 is like a big family. We live in a kind of weird society or a funny society that's like, wow, you have 3 kids, that's a lot of kids. And it's like, by the way, just I used to think that. I used to think 3 was a lot. I thought we were done after 3. I didn't want any more after 3. I've had a complete different shift of mind with some things, but I understand we live in a society that 3 is a lot for people. Sure. How do family dynamics play into adding more?
Yeah. Well, I even think like to just view it as like, this is what's hard is not even really necessarily the right way to look at it. We do as humans like look at, oh, this is hard and this is easier. But I think that one thing we've seen as we've continued to have children is, well, first of all, they don't all stay zero. They don't all
Thank
stay
God.
at any stage that's like they keep growing, you know?
Yeah.
And then with that, you get to see their little personalities develop. You get to see them contribute to the family. You get to see those family dynamics, the sibling dynamics. You get to see their thoughts and their inclinations and their gifts. And that just adds a total richness to the family that just grows and grows.
Right. And if you have just one specific gender, like we did for a long time, we just had boys. Yeah. We only knew what it was like to have boys in the house, pretty much. I mean,
Which is a lot of wrestling.
Which is a lot of wrestling, a lot of roughhousing.
Sisters, that was like a shell shocker of like, they're like little bear cubs. Yeah. They would just like roll around, wrestle all the time. So is this normal?
Right. But to have the mix of both in the home.
Yeah, that's
those
really
dynamics
fun.
Really change.
They change
the home.
Yeah, seeing our sons with our daughters has been a very cool, sweet thing. It's brought out a side in them that they didn't have before. Like having to look after or see or girls, they know they're different. And the way that they interact with them is different, you know. That's been really fun. And the girls with each other or the girls with the boys, like when our daughters will like, you know, be wearing a princess dress and have like a weapon in hand, it's like, yes, this is totally a girly girl with brothers. Like it's this mix of girly and tough and, you know, it's been fun to see. Yeah.
When did you feel like we went from kind of a normal sized family to, oh wow, that's a lot of, when did it feel like a lot of kids? Obviously from 0 to 1 was a huge game changer, but when did you feel perhaps a little more overwhelmed? Was it having 2 kids? Like what has been the most overwhelming part for you?
I feel like our first 3 were really close together in age. They were all about 2 years apart. So there was a season where I couldn't tell you, like, I don't know when anybody walked for the first time, except for our oldest, because he took forever. But after that, like, I can't tell you when anybody did any of the milestones. It was like, it's a blur of like diapers and nursing and being pregnant and keeping people alive and entertained. And, you know, it's like this hodgepodge in my mind of just, it was very busy and stuff. But then we have a little bit of a gap between the older 3 and the younger 3. So again, having older kids, when you bring home a baby and you have older kids, it's just different because you have all these extra hands and little helpers. And so I don't know that there's been a moment that's been like, wow, this is so overwhelming. I feel like there are moments throughout different days or different seasons where it's hard because of the stage that one is at, or because in that moment, everybody needs something. He needs his passy all at once. And that can be a little crazy. Yeah. But it doesn't stay that way.
No, but I would say with 6 kids, there's moments throughout every day that does get somewhat crazy at different points. And there's different levels with that, of course. And it's not as if the whole day stays crazy.
Right.
It definitely, well, what we are noticing about having older kids is they've gotten easier. There's so much less you have to do for them, and there's actually so much they can do for you. Like they can actually clean the house. They can actually do chores. They can actually rake leaves. They can do yard work. They can take care of raccoons in the yard when they go after chickens. There's so many different things that they can do now that they're getting older, that the liabilities, so to speak, if you want to call a baby sort of more or less a liability, they become the assets.
Right. Children are an investment. Right. On multiple levels, but also their companionship now that they're older. Like when we share interests, we can have real conversations, or they have like time to research things and they want to see what we think of this or that, or just like hanging with the older kids is enjoyable. Yeah. It's round to this corner of like fun, and there's like inside jokes, and there's like they know like what's funny or the things that are relevant or current to our family, and that is like, there's all this inside stuff,
right.
you know?
Right.
They know how we do things. Like, one of my sons is really great to cook with because he knows how I like things done, and he picks up on that. I don't have to explain anything. He's the easiest person in the world for me to cook with because he's intuitive about it because we've done it together a lot, you know? Right. Those are really neat and fun things. So I feel like, yeah, you've even said recently around the table, like when we're eating dinner, everybody adds something to it. Mm-hmm. It's, what were dinners like when it was just you and me versus dinners now?
Quiet, and I could talk to you. I do miss talking to you. Like, this is our time to talk.
True.
And we're doing it on a podcast right now.
True.
So whatever. But no, it was, we could actually converse and speak. But in reality, we still can do that. It's just with a mix and different flavors. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, it's like having lots of different thoughts in conjunction with, oh, I'm talking to you about this. So-and-so has an opinion about it as well. Oh, really? You also have something to say about what me and Mom should do with XYZ, whatever. So that's an interesting component to, especially dinner table conversation. But I like dinner conversation we have with the kids. I like recapping the day, talking about stuff they've learned in history or in school, things that we've read in the Bible, thoughts about hunting, whatever the topic is. There's mm-hmm. always interesting topics to go around. And then, of course, with the little girls, they provide their own flavor and energy to the situation, and sometimes it's not always good, but that will change as they develop and they grow older, and we train them well.
Sure. And sometimes it's really cute or it's really funny. Just depends on
mm-hmm.
the evening. Yeah.
True. Absolutely.
Also teaches responsibility, I think, because we all, as a family, we help each other out. And it's not just all us helping one child. It's us helping this child and this child helping that child, and these two being buddies and playmates, and those two, getting in their own world and playing together. Yeah. So there's a lot of built-in friends and people to take care of. Like, it's easy to learn to share in a big family because there's always somebody to share with.
That's true.
It teaches you to think about that.
Yeah. Let me play devil's advocate with you just for a second. So let's say you don't come from a large family, or you just don't want to have a large family, sure, or a lot of kids, or maybe any kids. And let me just throw some of the things at you and see what you think. So kids are a lot of work.
Yes.
Kids are super expensive.
Yes.
Kids can be annoying.
They can.
Kids can mess up your plans.
They can.
Kids can take away from your your career, whatever that is. What would you say to somebody who tells you those things? What would be your, and I'm sure you would give a kind, sweet, pleasant reaction. So what is your reaction to that?
Yeah. I don't know if anyone would ever just list off those things to me, but.
Well, I just did.
I think, there's truth in all of those things for sure, but kids are definitely worth it. I think in one sense, like you've already kind of said, up front, you're investing a lot of yourself, of your resources, but children are really a blessing, and they are themselves a resource. So it might take a while to see that, but like even, there's like a couple years you're telling your little one, like, I love you, and they can't even say it back. But even just like, there's these little people that come out, they're so sweet and so precious. And even though they're needy and smelly and all those things, like they do expand your heart in a way that nothing else quite can in that same way. Even their dependence on you is very sweet and endearing. But then as they grow, you see more and more of what you're investing in. And when we talk to people whose kids are grown, I've never yet heard anyone say, I wish we wouldn't have had that third or that fourth. Like, they just really put us over the edge. People are always like, I wish I'd had more. Because there's this understanding after you've done the work and after you've invested in these people that they are your people. We love our parents and our grandparents and the great grandparents that we've had. And like, you only get so many of those. And then when they're gone in this world. Yeah. But you still hopefully have siblings and you have your children. And then your children, they, as you age, like they become more and more your people and who they marry, and then their children. There's this total richness that, and you have to do the work to have the people under you, to have the people that come after you.
Right.
So I think that that's something that you should see, you know. And there's also this understanding that, like, while there are crazy moments, these are also the moments that make up life and make it fun. And you played the sweet, sappy country song,
Trace Adkins,
the other night. You're gonna miss this. And it's so true, because there are chaotic moments, but there's also so much laughter and fun and goodness. Like, these are the times we'll reminisce about and be like, oh my gosh, remember, it was so crazy, but it was so great, and so-and-so was so sweet, and their voice was so little. Can you remember that? I had another thought, though. Would you have them? Yes, definitely have them. I lost it, but if it comes back to me, I'll let you know. What would you say?
You stole all my lines.
I did?
You just did.
All of them? Every single one? You have nothing to add to that?
I would add one thing that we've said or listened to years ago that Doug Wilson said, which was kids are 2 hands and 1 mouth.
They're born with 1 mouth and 2 hands.
Thank you. They're born with 1 mouth and 2 hands. So yes, they take in a lot, but they can do a lot too. And I think we have seen that now firsthand as our older boys have gotten older and are capable of doing so much more. We're realizing, wow, they're really able to add a lot to the family in ways that are, it's really cool. It's really cool.
Yeah. I also think that it shapes us as people. I heard a really great talk by Elizabeth Elliot. It was actually about marriage, but I've been using this quote because it's just so good. The measure of your love is the measure you're willing to be inconvenienced by someone.
I don't want to hear that.
So it's like, it's so true, but love is one of those things that the more that you love others and you give away of yourself, it's not that there's less of you. Like, you actually, what you get in return is far richer.
Yeah.
So to give your life away for your spouse, for your children, there's richness in that, and it pleases the Lord when you do it unto Him. And I think it's filling in a way. Yeah. So what is it Psalms or Proverbs? It says, he who refreshes another is himself refreshed. It's kind of that. I think the world kind of gives this mentality of like, you'll have less time for you, you'll have less time to travel, you have less time to do all these things that you want to do. But it's like, if you're looking for adventure, if you're looking for something that truly lasts and is satisfying, well, like humans who are immortal.
And loud.
But yeah.
Loud little human.
Lewis said there's no mere mortals.
Right, that's right. No mere mortals, and no babies that don't cry.
Right.
Yes, little guy. Yes, that's right. Are you looking for something? It's right over here.
Yeah.
It's right over here. All right.
Oh, thank you.
The one thing that I was going to say that made me remember this was, the Instagram post that I saw.
Oh, yeah.
And it's by somebody, I don't know who he is. He's some influencer or whatever. It just popped up in my feed. And I was so struck, aghast, and disgusted by this particular Instagram post because it showed this. You're out of the picture. You need to come into the picture. There you go. Okay. This guy basically shows a day in the life of himself, right? So he's probably 40-something years old. He gets up in the morning. He's got like a perfect mask on his face to keep, I guess, all the wrinkles and the lines at bay. Which, whatever, more power to you. Less wrinkles, that's whatever. That's kind of cool. I might invest in the mask. And so he gets up, he's brushing his teeth by himself. He walks in his perfectly clean kitchen. Perfectly clean kitchen, kind of a cool kitchen. But he walks in here and he's making himself 6 eggs, he makes himself breakfast, he makes himself, he gets himself ready in the morning, goes outside to his porch in his perfect clean garage. Keep in mind, he doesn't wake up next to a woman. There are no kids at his heels. There is nothing he has invested. There's nothing of true consequence within his life outside of himself. So then it shows him he drives to his job, he goes to the gym, he's working out his muscles and showing off his abs and 6-pack, whatever. And just as you watch this, then he goes to dinner, he's by himself, table for one, And he goes back home, goes to sleep, puts on his perfect mask, whatever. And it's just like this real sense of, wow, like, what is that man building other than himself? But our job in our life is not to just build up ourselves. We pour out ourselves for others. When we're married, we pour out ourselves for one another. And then when you have children, you're also doing that, which is, I think, one of the reasons why our society so balks against having children or multiple children or whatever, because it really is, it can be a pain in the rear. It can actually, and when you look at it that way, it is tough. It's hard. Like, there are things that you've got to go through that are really difficult, but they're so worth it. So watching someone who really led the ultimate narcissistic self-life was just like gross. Like, this is nasty. I can't believe someone would actually think this is the way in which to live. I also would like to just say, as a disclaimer, I realize there are those people who lose their spouses, so maybe there's a situation in this guy's life. Maybe he hasn't found the right one yet, but again, okay, I don't know. This particular individual looked more like a narcissist than it was somebody who was really, he wasn't looking for a woman. He wasn't looking for a wife to spend his life with. He was looking to, how can I grow myself, build myself,
even people who are single,
alone by myself.
They can be very, very fruitful.
Absolutely. It's not at all. I'm not at all saying, I'm not trying to crush the single life of somebody who desires those things. That is marriage and all that. Not at all. But just somebody who pretty much looks at marriage, and especially looks at children and offspring as,
too much work.
Too much work. I don't really care to have that in my life. I'm good, and I just want to be alone, in a selfish kind of response to it. That's of course how I'm meaning that.
Yeah, well, you've even remarked, like, we like to have a tidy house, and that's just not 100%
yes, I do.
Perfect. I can move around and clutter better than you can. It's true.
Yeah,
but
I don't think in clutter.
You've remarked, like, would I be happier if my house was, like, perfectly clean?
Yes.
But there were no kids. No one was here. Like, no, not at all. Like, it's that realization too. And it makes me think of when we were leaving that funeral, not just this past week or two. And I was thinking, wow, isn't it so interesting that when people get up and share, they never say, like, oh my goodness, can you believe how amazing her house was? Or do you know how much she had in her retirement account? Or, like, those are not when they're giving the list of this person's life and their accomplishments and who they were, they're not talking about their assets or their, how much they could bench press or what their, whatever. Like, those are not the things that stand out. Those are not the things that we love somebody for, we remember them for, we miss them for. The things are that they were a wife, a father, a brother, a sister, a mother. It was the person, who they were to you relationally. It's all relational. Like, all relational. That's what everyone talks about. The stories of who that person meant to them, what they did for them.
It's the Clarence thing from It's a Wonderful Life. When the man is gone, he leaves an awful big hole. He can't. The world can't fill the hole of somebody who was here in this life and is gone now, kind of thing. It really it comes down to, the people matter. The people matter more than the buildings. The buildings are cool. The house being clean is great. I like a clean house.
Definitely.
But exactly,
we misvalue if we think that it's better to have all this extra time and freedom and be able to spend our money on this or that thing that's transient. It's not more valuable than these people that live forever. And these people that in our lifetime mean the world to us and will continue to throughout our life.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. So good. There are no mere mortals.
I know. That's a great line, though, but it's true.
A great line.
And that's the other thing that we talk about when Lord willing, all of our children will live up to their baptisms and they'll be faithful and they'll love the Lord all their days. Then you're also, like, investing eternally. You just are.
Yes.
Do you think that, well, you already said your hardest transition also was 0 to 1.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
How is it to have, especially because our older children are male, how is it to have boys that you can chop wood with and share interest in that way, play sports?
Yeah.
Has that been like something you expected or you thought about that you'd have?
I knew I'd have it someday. It's just crazy how fast someday came. It's coming now. Yeah. It's really wonderful to have sons that I can start to have more adult-like conversations with. They're still young, but as they're now growing, it is really great to be able to start talking about things like, oh, we can start talking about you're going to be driving in a few years. So let's talk about the highways. Let's talk about, no, you will not be driving with your cell phone in your hand or whatever. It's interesting to be able to have these conversations. And yeah, I am enjoying it. I do like it a lot.
They've even taught you things because they have different hobbies and interests than you.
They do teach me a lot. Too. They do teach me a lot. Yep. They'll look up so many YouTube videos on how to build this or do that. And then they'll be like, well, Dad, you can do this, this, and this. And I'm like, okay, go do it for me. So.
True.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Yeah. Have some more kids.